Welcome to the Sequoia Wellness Group, powered by MMF. This pre-recorded call is the property of the Sequoia Wellness Group, and this testimony has not been evaluated by the FDA. The product information that is being shared with you is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please stand by.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Ann. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Sequoia Group Wellness Call powered by Engage in Global. And as you're going to hear this evening, a very exciting and powerful call. Now, as most of us already know, as we get older, we start to take a more serious look at our own health. Like, how can we turn back the clock? How can we wake up with that refreshed feeling every day that lasts throughout the day? And how can we energize our bodies to combat against the unhealthy forces that we constantly face on a daily basis? Well, look no further. This evening, you're going to hear an exciting call about a groundbreaking, unique product called Military Micronutrient Formulation, known as MMF. Now, this unique product contains powerful, natural ingredients that all work together to take our health to the next level. And it's truly making a significant difference in the health arena. But don't take my word for it. We're going to hear from some of our customers and partners that are experiencing tremendous results. And our first testimony, we're going to go to Georgia, and we're going to hear from a U.S. veteran, Mr. Maurice Norman. Maurice, can you hear me?
Yes, Ann, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Well, great. Again, thanks to you and Rodney for allowing me to share my story concerning the product. It's, earlier this year I got sick. Okay, I've as you said, I was former military, and over the years I've been out since 1987. Okay, and over the years I had never been sick. Throughout that time, I was in the military, and then even afterwards. And one of the biggest things is that I generally don't take any medications for anything. Every now and then, if I had a back pain or something like that, I would take some Tylenol, but that was rare. And so it was real unusual for early this year. Like I said, early in January, I started to get really sick and didn't know why or what was wrong. And I found myself, the first thing I noticed was I found myself extremely thirsty all the time. And no matter how much I drank, I was still thirsty, and my mouth was just dry all the time. And on top of that, I was going to the restroom, like every hour and hour, because I was drinking so much liquids. And it turns out that wasn't the real reason why I was really going to the restroom so much. And then another symptom that I noticed was that my eyesight was going really bad. It got so bad to the point where it was like I was seeing white lights in my eyes all the time. Just as if you were out driving at night and someone was driving from in the other lane coming your way, and they had their high beam lights on. All you could see is that bright white light. That's what I was seeing. And what happened was, I became so sick that my wife ended up taking me to the emergency room. We didn't know what was wrong, and at that point, I didn't know anything that was going on. I was so unresponsive. It turns out that I was admitted into the emergency room with ketoacidosis. If you're not familiar with ketoacidosis, that is where you have extreme high levels of sugar in your bloodstream, and it's where your pancreas is not creating enough insulin to get the sugar into your bloodstream, and your kidneys can't process it. My kidneys had started to fail in that process, so I was extremely sick at that time. The normal blood sugar level for an average person is anywhere from 70 to 100. I was in the high 800, 900s. So my body was really shutting down because it just could not process all that sugar. Therefore, they diagnosed me as diabetic. Most people know 1 and 2, but it was I was diagnosed with the rare form, which is what they call 1.5 or 1.5. It's where I kind of cross between both sides of it. But anyway, I was admitted into the hospital, um, and once in the hospital, they gave me. I started having to take insulin shots 4 times a day, uh, one before each meal, one at bedtime. And I was also on some pills, metformin, taking that twice a day. I was also doing Jardiance once in the morning. And then I had some other medications too. So again, it was tough for me to process all of this because, one, my body was sick. Secondly, now I'm introducing stuff into my body that I never had done before, medications. So it was hard to process it mentally and physically. But as time went on, I started to get used to it all. But the one thing that I wanted to do was I really wanted to get off of the insulin, of everything else, because, again, one of the biggest things is when you're trying to process your day, having to stop and take those shots, 4 times a day. You've got to constantly think about that so you don't miss it. And it was just, I was mentally struggling with that also. But as time went on, I got a call from Rodney telling me about this product that I had never heard of. And, he told me that it was something that that was made for the military and everything. And so, again, I just said, hey, I may as well try it. So Rodney sent me a sample, and I started using it. And after the first couple of days that I started using it, I could tell there was a difference. One of the things that I started to feel was I was feeling a little bit stronger than I had been in the past, because I had gotten really weak from months of not working out or doing any physical activity or anything like that, and all the medication just taking everything out of me. That was the first thing I noticed. Then I started to notice one of the things that I had done was, I had experimented over the months with the medications, and so I understood what each one of them would do to me if I didn't take it, or if I just took one shot, or only did one of the pills or something like that. So I understood extremely well what that medication was doing for me. So I wanted to see what the MMF was going to do for me, so I started to experiment with it. So one of the first things I started to do was I said, okay, I'm going to not take one of my shots, and I'm going to take this and see what it does for me. And sure enough, I guess probably 2-3 days later after trying it, I noticed the difference was, I noticed that the MMF was doing for me the same thing that one of my insulin shots was doing. I was like, wow, okay, maybe there's something to it. So I kept going, but I kept waiting, but I was taking everything else, and slowly, up to this point, I got to a point where I'm no longer taking my insulin shots. And the MMF is actually taking the place of it. So whatever they have in it, it has done an amazing job for me. Because, again, one of the most important things that I wanted to do was get off the shots, and it's taken the place of that. And another point that I do want to make, again, I've continued to do all the other things as far as the medications are concerned, but I think that one of the biggest reasons I wanted to come off the shots was because the very first doctor that I saw in the hospital told me, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can get off these shots. You're going to have to do this the rest of your life. Well, as we see now, that's not true. And again, I haven't done anything else other than add the MMF to my routine, and it's taken the place of those insulin shots. So I'm thankful for that product. So again, for anybody out there, I would say still follow what your doctors say, but at least give the product a try and see what it does for you. It won't hurt. It can only make you healthier. So again, thanks, Rodney and Ann, for allowing me to share my story with you guys.
Well, excuse me. Well, thank you, Maurice. And it's a good thing that you didn't give up. I mean, that is such a powerful testimony and a clear, very clear example of what the body can do when introduced to the proper nutrients.
Thank you for listening to the Sequoia Wellness Group product presentation. Please get back with the person who shared this information with you and ask them to rush your 3-day samples of MMF now.